Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your hosts, Katie Comer.
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome back to Hope After Addiction. We are so excited that you've joined us again for this podcast. How are you doing? Are you doing good?
Yes, I am great.
Yeah.
How was your vacation?
It was so good. I went to the beach with my family. Yes. It was so fun. We had the best time. The kids are at such fun ages because they can both swim. And we don't have to worry about them as much. Maybe we'll put a few pictures up or something of the vacation, but it was just us four. We love going with our extended family, but when it's just us four, we can be like, you know what? We don't really want to go in and we want to order food in or something like that. Yeah. So it was the freedom in that. So that was really fun. The only negative was there was huge jellyfish in the ocean.
So I had a client tell me that this week, and I heard that they're hot pink. Were they pink?
They were. They're called pink meanies.
Meanies.
And they look mean. But I'm talking like this big, and this big. And the water was clear, so you could see them coming from a mile away. But nonetheless, I didn't get in the ocean much.
Were they mean to any of y'all?
No.
Okay, good.
No, none of us got stung. But Adam would walk out into the ocean with the kids, and I'm like, just be careful. But it was fine. They're all good. But we had a really, really fun time other than that.
Other than the meanies.
Yeah, other than the meanies. We had a really good time.
Fitting name.
But we're excited to be back with you all today. So if you haven't gone back to watch a few of our other episodes, we talked about our testimonies, where we're from, what brought us here. So go back and listen to those. But today we wanted to talk about 5 things each of us have learned in the season of loving someone through addiction. And this is stuff that I've learned, but also stuff as I've talked to other women, moms, daughters, wives, all these things that they're struggling with too. So 5 bigger things that have come up that I think would be beneficial for you all as well to hear. So,
and we talked and we're like, we could literally write a book of the things that we've learned.
Yeah.
But these are just 5 big ones that I think everybody has a common denominator in.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your first one? What do you think?
Well, I think we have this one in common, but surrender. That is huge.
So what about surrender? So I'll start off by saying this because this is one of mine too. There's freedom in surrender, surrendering in the midst of your story. And I will say our next episode is all about surrender. So we're going to hit on this quick and then go and listen to our next episode because it is really, really probably the most important, in my opinion. You might have a different one, but that I had to learn because it was very difficult, very difficult. But there is so much freedom. So tell me a little bit more about what you mean in just a little bit, because I know we're about to get into it.
we're about to delve into that. Well, surrender, I think, is also the first place. You have to come to that surrender before you can begin to walk into forgiveness, into trust, into healing, all of that. You have to be willing to surrender. And so for me, and we'll talk about the next episode more, but I have a surrender story in my bedroom.
So good.
And I came to the end of myself. I know. And that's what surrender is coming to the end of yourself and saying, God, it's you. There is nothing I can do outside of this, that it's all yours.
Yeah. I'm excited about the next episode to talk about that because it really does just grow you so much and helps you in the process of leaning into healing. So we're excited about that. One of mine outside of the surrender is addiction is not a surprise to God. And neither is your story that you're walking through. So you've got to rest in that. And I'm not saying that makes it easy. Right. I mean, it is hard. I'm on the ground crying with my hands held high going, God, I need you. And it's hard and I'm crying and sometimes it's just bad.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's easy, but there is comfort in knowing that your story is already written. And if you just take a moment and be like, okay, he already has this figured out. God already has this figured out. And your loved one who's going through the addiction right now, it's not a surprise that God, that this has happened. So rest in that. And that's something really big that I've learned through the years, that my story is ever unfolding, but he's already has it written for me. So
That's so true. And I think that goes back. I was thinking about Deuteronomy 31:8, where it says God has walked before you.
Yeah.
And he is with you, and he is. And I found a lot of solace in that, knowing that even in days that I would wake up, I'm like, God, you've done this before me today. Like, you know what I'm going to face. You know what I'm going to find. You know what I'm going to find out. And you know, and you've walked this, and you are also walking beside me. And it's even like that old, I forget who said it, but, you know, the footprints in the sand poem, that he carries you. And when you don't feel like you can carry yourself in those seasons and in those moments, like, he carries you. And to know, like, hey, daughter, I've done this before you, and I'm going to carry you through this.
Yeah.
So that was a big,
That's
just to
cute.
know
I
it's
love
not
that.
a surprise.
I know. That's good.
That's a huge one. And I think it's encouraging to know, like, when you feel alone, like those seasons that we were alone, you're not, because God's done it before you, which was so important.
Yeah. I like that.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I love that. I'm going to say my second one, which there's maybe out of order, but it was never done against me or to me. And I had to work really hard on that one, because I was one of those that for a long time I would try and make life so perfect for John. And even coming from my dad, I was like, if I'm perfect enough, if I have dinner on the table, if the laundry's done, if the bills are paid, if all the things are done, he won't want to go use. And I learned that it was never about me. And that's one thing that I've learned just walking through healing and counseling, is there's nothing you can do to change the trajectory of this story. Like, God is using every moment of this story, and never put this on you, because it's not your fault. And that one took me a long time. And that goes back to my childhood, also going through it with my dad.
Yeah.
That it was never about me or because of me or my fault.
And how long did it take you to, like, realize that? You said through counseling.
Yeah, through counseling.
Yeah, like in the middle of it. Yeah.
Like late 20s, before I came to know, like, there was nothing I did to make my dad leave when I was little, or there was nothing that I did to make John go want to use again.
I mean, that's so important to start to realize.
Yeah. Because and even when it comes to forgiveness, I had to forgive myself, because I had held such a heaviness against myself, thinking that it was my fault, or things, if I said something that upset him or upset my brother, and it was never me. And so I had to come to a moment that I forgave me for decisions or choices that I had made that were not me. Grace. Yeah. What's your second?
So I would say that one of the big things that I learned in the middle of walking through this was self-care. And it's okay. We talk about this because you're a hairdresser. And so there's a lot of self-care. You're helping a lot of women out in that, and conversations come out of that and stuff. But it's okay to be a little selfish in this time, and take time for yourself, because there are so many times that I talk to people, and even in my walk, that I focused so much on Adam for years that I never took care of myself. Go get your nails done.
Go eat.
I
the
don't know. That
cookie.
sounds silly. Yeah, go. You say that too. Go eat that crumble cookie.
Yes. It is.
I mean, honestly, it's like I mean, I remember not even like going to get my hair done for the longest time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and it sounds so weird, but you're just so focused on your loved one, which also creates, and I'm sure this will be another topic that we discuss in the future, but it also creates a codependency.
Yes.
With your loved one. And it's an unhealthy habit to form, so really taking the time to learn what is going to make you happy. Go on a trip with some girls, or, just go take some time for yourself. Go to a bookstore, go read, it's good to just take some time for yourself, and it's healthy to take some time for yourself, and it's okay to do that. So yeah, I
think,
definitely
yeah.
think that would be one of mine.
I was going to say, I think that's one of the most important because we do lose ourselves in this.
Yeah.
And even a lot of the women that I work with, and I remember one specifically, and I tell them, go paint your nails, go
Yeah.
take the Epsom salt bath, go eat the cookie.
Yeah.
But like, I'm a runner, and there's so many, I love to run. And I
Yeah.
found myself, I would not run because I was too scared to leave the house because of what John would do when I was gone. 30-minute
Really?
run. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I was talking to one of the other wives, and she was like, oh my goodness, I would do the same thing. Like, I would not want to leave his side out of fear of what he would do while I was gone. And it goes back to the codependency aspect of it.
I mean, that's just, what it brings out.
It is. And it's like, find your passions again. Like, find what you used to love that made you happy, that made you wake up with joy, and do those things again and do them. Because we always say, and John tells people that he works with, is it's their time to be selfish. They're going away and getting help and figuring out stuff and digging deep into their past, and it's also your turn to be selfish, and it's okay to be selfish and to take that time, because you've been so all consumed by them. And so go do things for you, and it's because you'll start to regain you again and heal in those areas.
And I think another big way that you can focus on yourself is to go through counseling. That is something I never did growing up. That's just never something I really thought about. But I pursued some Christian counseling, and I specifically recommend that Christian counseling. But it really they're the ones that told me to start to journal. They're the ones that gave me homework to do. That it really was just something that helped me find who I was again. Outside of, oh, my husband's an addict and I don't know what to do, and constantly worrying about it. So,
and to have that wise counsel, I think counseling is imperative, and also for that restitution with your loved one to begin walking that path again and walking that journey. Counseling, I know we're firm believers in it, but it definitely has helped us heal from a lot of stuff, and do it. And I'll urge, because I hear a lot of people, the financial aspect is a big part of it. But a lot of the Christian counselors, and I want to urge you to look and seek and don't give up looking, because they have sliding scales. So find that right one and push for it, because it will catapult your journey into healing.
Don't overlook that point. Just don't be like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to get my nails done. But focus on yourself. Just take some time for yourself. I think it's going to be very beneficial in your recovery for sure.
It's huge. Yes. You want to do number 3?
Okay. I was like, whose turn is it? Okay. So trust is another big one that I hear a lot, and it was something really hard for me.
Me too.
So with my story, he had to earn, and just like everybody else, you have to earn it back. It's not something that happens. All right, I trust you again. No, it's a time, and mine is a little daunting. I know I tell people, and they're like, it took you 2 years to learn to trust him.
Same. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it took me years. It might not take you that long, and I get that. And this will be another probably topic, but one of my big points, though, outside of that is, yes, they need to earn your trust back, but are you willing to allow them to earn the trust back? Because there are so many times, and I hear this all the time, and Adam hears this all the time. They're not willing to let me earn it back. And so you've really got to ask yourself, are you willing to let them earn that trust back? There has to be steps. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but there has to be steps that they can say, hey, am I earning this back? Are you letting me earn it back? Because if not, I mean, it's kind of like a dead end for them. And I hear that all the time through the guys going through the program on that end. So really search in your heart and really pray about how you can start that process of letting them earn that trust.
Yeah, I want to go just the Spirit just in that move me and go a step further with that. And like, I want you to write that question down right now. And I want you to put it in the dashboard. I want you to put it on your refrigerator. And I want you to pray over that and think over that, because that is imperative to your healing and to theirs.
That's good.
And just sit on that question. Like, are you willing to earn that trust back?
And if you're not, that's where a counselor could kind of come into play. Also, I think this is a good point for us to say, because we haven't mentioned this since the first time.
Yeah.
If there are things that we talk about in our podcast and you want more expansion on this, that you can email us.
Yes.
We have an email, we have social medias, but you can email us at hopeafteraddiction@gmail.com. Yeah. And we would love to create a dialogue with you. If you're like, but this, and this is where I'm at in this whole trust thing. Yeah. I get it. It's easy enough for us just to say these points, right? It's easier enough for us to say, hey, you need to start the trust again. You need to start that bridge. Yeah. But you're like, but I have this question about that. Then we would love to start that dialogue. So email us.
Yeah, I love that. And don't think that we didn't have those questions too.
No, I did.
Because, for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we absolutely had questions but how, but when, but how do we make this work? So please reach out with stuff, questions, anything.
Our social medias are just Hope After Addiction. You can find those. Private message us. We would love just to start that dialogue with you. So that was something, because I feel like we're saying these things that are so, big, but we're just saying them. And so I just think that it's important to have that as a reminder.
No, it is. Yeah, because it's not easy. And I remember one of our counselors back home said, and John used to get upset that she would say this, but she said with any level of betrayal, it takes 3 years to get to that place where it's not your every thought. It's not your every fear in your mind. And I've talked about, but what Katie told me, you have levels of trust, which we'll dig into this in a whole other
conversation. Yeah.
And it's true. And so, ponder on that question. And then when you say yes, or if you need more help in that, begin to walk in that and know that it's a process.
Yeah.
But just making that decision to be on one side of the fence or the other will give you that freedom to walk forward. So good.
Your turn.
All right. Number 3. I would say this is the crazy part, but not understanding what we went through in our story and when we were walking through it, but God used John's addiction for so many things. It's crazy. Our families are saved. They're Christians. They love the Lord now. He used John's addiction to heal my past of the things that I was not brave enough to dig into. And I'm such a quote person. I love to read things like that. But it says it takes one person to face the past to change generations. And I do believe that he used John's addiction to change generations moving forward. And that was even in me, because he used John's addiction to go back and face the things with my father and with my brother that I had never dealt with. I was one of those that I was just scooting it under the rug, and I just kept tripping on the pains and the burdens of my past. So I know right now you may not understand why you are where you are or what you're going through, but God is going to use this for your story. This is not just your husband's story, your son's story, your child's story. Like, this is your story. That's and good. He has a purpose in it too.
He does. Yeah.
A big one.
Yeah. So my other one is, it's going to be, this whole process, this whole story that you're walking through, it's a sacrifice, and that there are going to be sacrifices that you're going to have to take. And it kind of goes back a little bit. I'm kind of hitting on some things as well. But for me, in my story, if you go back and listen to my testimony, I had to make some big sacrifices that I never thought that I would have to make. I had to separate from my husband, which I never thought I would have to do. I had to not talk to him for at least a month while he was in the program. I'm not saying that has to be your sacrifice. I'm just talking about I had to make sacrifices to better my relationship with the Lord and better my relationship with Adam.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to make some of those sacrifices. I see sometimes, and it kind of goes back to the codependency thing. where their husbands are in the program, but they just really miss them, and the kids need them. And I get it.
It's hard.
But it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And every story's different. So I'm not saying everyone's the same. But for me, I had to make these specific sacrifices, separating from them, not talking to them, go into counseling, spending the little extra money. I had to journal and sit down and just really knock out some of my feelings. So what kind of sacrifices are you willing to make to better yourself and better your relationship with your loved one?
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think I always go back to the refining fire.
Yes.
And I think that surrender and sacrifice is the refining fire that you walked yourself through, or let God walk you through while he was over there.
Right.
I mean, and you walked through the fire while he was there.
I did.
Like, you guys are walking through the fire while we were there, but it's refining you
Yeah.
into something incredible.
That's good.
So I love that.
Are we at number 5?
Oh, I was thinking, I was like, I think I have 2 more, but maybe
I have one more, but you go for yours.
Well,
that's fine.
I may have said it. That's funny. That's one of my really big ones is God will use your story.
Yeah.
And we both know that because of how we met. But nothing goes to waste when you put it in God's hands. And I learned we were pretty hidden about our story in the beginning. A lot of people didn't know. John was really good at like just doing what he did and not really anybody knowing. And as soon as we opened up and began to open up, it was crazy how many people came out of the woodworks and were like, we've been through this, or we're going through this, and now, I mean, we would yell it off the rooftops, and it's incredible how God uses it. And I think I said it on the first one, but be the person that you need. And when you were in that season, like, let God use your story to reach somebody else, because somebody needs you. Like, I needed you. You know, Katie's ahead of this journey and time-wise from me, and she was such a pivotal just mentor for me and teaching me, you know, how to walk through this. And days that I could call me like, Katie, what do I do about this?
I know, yeah.
So,
yeah, he will. He will for sure use your story. And y'all are so good at that. I will say, last October,
I know.
Y'all
used
used
been
your
a year.
story. I know.
Yeah.
They, God used their story through like a walkthrough. What is it called?
It's called Reality House, but it's
Reality
like a walkthrough
House.
drama. Yeah, we do it every Saturday in
so
October. Yeah, and we shared, I mean, just the overdose, and it was very intense. And then we met everybody at the end and got to share our story and our hope and what God's done. And yeah, crazy.
It was so good. So y'all are really good at that, and you can find your areas that you can share your story, because I do. I really feel there's so many people, even when we talk about starting this podcast, they're like, oh, I have a friend that would really, really love to hear this podcast. So, I mean, it's something that is very important, is to share your story. Yeah. So my last one, which I feel like is so important, which they're all important, but
that's the hard part.
This one is too. So, is to find support. In your journey.
Yeah.
Do not hide in your bedroom. Go to work, come back, and never tell anybody about it. You've got to find people in your life that you can talk to about this. You need to find friends, family, the podcast, that can encourage you through this journey, because it is not meant for you to walk alone. We are not meant to walk alone in this.
No, we are not.
And so that is something, it took me a minute, and I was actually reading my journal.
Tell me more on this one.
So I was preparing for this episode, and I was just like, it's been a long time since I've felt these feelings. And so I had to go back to my journal that my counselor told me to start writing. And so I did. I started reading it, and it was a lot. A lot of emotions. I called Chelsea, and I was very emotional. And I just was like, man, these feelings, man, they were raw. But I say that at the very beginning of my journal, nobody had known. And I could feel in those pages that I was writing how lonely I was. I could. So you've got to understand how important it is to find your friends, family. I know it's difficult for them to have that feeling of, oh, they're an addict. I mean, that's wild. That's a story I'm not sure I'm prepared for. But once they know there is so much freedom and having people walk with you in that. So
that one,
support.
yeah. I was like, I have goosebumps just hearing that.
I know,
And, isolation is the enemy's playground. And if you stay in that isolation, it's
so sad.
It'll wreck. Yeah. And open up, because it's terrifying. Vulnerability is terrifying. But man, and there's going to be some things that people say that you're like, really? Did you just say that? But it is amazing the support that you will gain.
And they might not know what to say.
And I think that's a lot of times. Yeah.
That's okay. My family didn't know what to say. They were like,
no, what? But they supported you and they walked with
and they
you.
did. Yeah. And they did, and they still do. And it's a beautiful story, right? So, and it doesn't always happen like that. And we realize that, but, it's something that's very much needed. Whether it works out or not, you're still going to need support. So find your support.
Amen to that, sister. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so good. And the last one I just have is God will make your story beautiful. What you're going through right now, I'll make it short and sweet, but beauty for ashes. And he will indeed do that.
Yes.
So.
Well, he's taught us a lot for sure in the years that we've been kind of walking through this, hearing other men and women and what they're going through. So we hope we found some commonality as we've been talking about this, saying, man, that feels like me, because we hear that a lot too.
Yes.
So we hope that you enjoyed this episode. We're looking forward to sharing what surrender looks like. So check us out next time. All right. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.